Welcome back, everybody. Sarcasm Speaks. Jared and Bob coming at you. It's also still a Saturday matinee for us. But I got something interesting to start off with that I don't know, I guess is kind of cool in the the grand scheme of things, but it's also slightly terrifying. Um, Scientists brought back the dire wolf from extinction. So, if anyone doesn't know exactly what a dire wolf is, it's a fucking giant wolf, basically. I think wolves in the wild are typically somewhere between like 120 to 150 pounds, maybe like 100 to 150 if you get a smaller one, depending on. I think red wolves are a little bit smaller than gray wolves, so maybe the gray wolves are, closer to 150, whatever. Dire wolves are like 150 to 200 pounds. And from ground to shoulder, they're about on average 38 inches, which is over 3 feet off the ground. And that's again to shoulder, right? So their heads are going to be up a little bit higher. These things are fucking huge. Um, Basically, I would imagine it's probably roughly the same size as a like a Great Dane, right? But not a goofy Great Dane, like a quite literal killing machine. Like basically a husky, right? Or a wolf, right? Like a huge husky the size of a Great Dane. That's basically what they just brought back. Um, Now, I actually listened to a podcast with Joe Rogan with the guy who works for the company that actually brought them back. Um, and it is pretty cool, right? The whole process behind it and the science, and they use CRISPR technology to, edit genes for current gray wolves and pull this and that, and they find most of the genome for the extinct dire wolves, through fossils and stuff like that, and they have to kind of fill the gaps. Um, and they do the classic, obviously I'm going to get to the whole Jurassic Park angle of this, but they do the classic, well, I mean, currently right now they live in captivity, right? They're on a reserve that's like 2,000 square acres or something like that. Like they have plenty of room to roam and do all this stuff. There's only two of them. They named them Romulus and Remus after the original emperors of Rome. Um,
Dude, they've been to Italy once.
you're a big dire wolf guy
Yeah.
now.
No, not a big direwolf guy, but yeah, Romulus and Remus.
Yeah.
Yes, Uncle Remus. I know
Yeah.
the catfish are
Not
huge. That's terrific.
not to be confused with Uncle Remus. Yeah.
So yeah,
Uh,
actually, did they really name him that?
mhm.
Yeah, okay. Of
They
course they
did.
did.
They did.
Which is interesting because Romulus and Remus were like obviously I mean it's so they're actually mythology. I forget the exact story
Yeah.
about like why they existed or what happened.
Something to do with
But
a river, right? That they were, I
yeah,
don't
they
know.
might have just been like abandoned on the river or
I think
something.
that's what happened. Yeah.
So because the symbol of Rome is the mother wolf with Romulus and Remus like under the udders because the wolf is what nursed um the two siblings or twin. I think they're twins.
Yeah, they are.
It's what nursed the twins to survival or whatever.
Mhm.
So yeah, of course they did.
Yeah, they're
Wait, does this mean
demigods.
the Roman Empire's coming back?
Yeah, on the backs of dire
Only
wolves.
it's the opposite. The humans have created the wolves are taking over.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm getting out of this.
Yeah, so it is. They were twin brothers born to a Vestal virgin and the god Mars. So they were demigods, right? They're born to um, a human and a god, and their birth threatened the reigning king. They were abandoned as infants and left to die by the river Tiber. See, I knew there was a river involved in the story. But they were miraculously saved by a she-wolf who nursed them and later by a shepherd who raised them. So yeah, they were saved by the wolf. Um, as adults, they decided to build a city where they had been saved, but they argued over who should rule it. Eventually, Romulus killed Remus. In some versions of the myth, because Remus was mocked by Romulus for jumping over his newly built city walls. Romulus then became king of the first city, which he named Rome, after himself. The story blends the fate of divine intervention and fraternal rivalry and was used to explain and glorify Rome's origins. So there you have it. That's the cliff notes on Romulus and Remus story, the origin of Rome. But yeah,
I don't
they named they
know what Rome is gonna be.
Wolf Rome. But yeah, so they named the two dire wolves that they brought back from extinction after that myth, right? Um, Again, right, from a science perspective, this is really cool. The other thing that this guy was talking about, his company, I think it's called Colossal or Colossus. What is the name of the company that did this? They're hell bent really on bringing back the woolly mammoth. Also, um, they just did the dire wolf first. So, I mean, part of me, again, the scientist in me is like, that's really fucking cool that we're able to kind of do stuff like this. But the pragmatist in me is like, I don't know, guys. I think there's a reason why all these animals went extinct, right? Like maybe because, well, I mean, the woolly mammoth probably not so much. That was probably more of a like a food supply thing. But the dire wolf, yeah, man, I think humans probably killed them because they were pretty fucking dangerous. Like same thing with the short-faced bear, right? Which is like the most terrifying bear ever. It's bigger than a polar bear. It's basically a grizzly that's bigger than a polar bear and insanely aggressive. There's theories that the reason why humans were so late getting into North America is because there was a lot of short-faced bears that lived in the current day Canada and Alaska region. And anytime humans walked over the land bridge from Russia to Alaska at that time, they just got destroyed by all these giant fucking bears. So humans hunted them to extinction, right? Because they're wicked fucking dangerous.
I
So
mean, I guess we still have them going for us.
yeah,
Is that
yeah.
is that so? Is that the probably segueing to your point? So is that the logic behind like why this won't be a Jurassic Park situation? Is we'll just shoot them all?
Yeah, but I mean, what has to happen to even get to that point, right? Because like I know it's
Uh,
different, right? It's a different species, quite literally altogether. But you look at something like axis deer, right? There's two actually, axis deer and pigs in the state of Texas. Um, Neither of them are native to Texas, right? And their populations have gone completely out of control. So now they allow people basically open season, right, on axis deer and wild hogs. Like we've joked about it before, you can literally rent a helicopter with a minigun on it and just go mow down wild hogs in the Texas prairie lands. Like you just pay like $450 and like you go shoot as many hogs as you have bullets in the helicopter. Um, because they're that big of a problem, right? Like they destroy agriculture and crops and they fuck up, farmlands and stuff like that. So, um, good old America, right? They found a way to make money off of it and solve a problem at the same time. But like again, they're not necessarily dangerous like the dire wolf, but like we have precedent for species that aren't native to this area becoming a massive fucking problem, right? And it's middle school biology 101, right? Like we learn this in school. If you introduce a species and there's no natural predator, then their just population is just going to grow completely out of control, right? Like that's the whole circle of life thing. Like everything is in balance. And when you take something that has no natural predator, well, then what's going to keep that population under control? Well, the answer is nothing. Um, so yeah, I mean,
a predator back from the day, like a fucking like saber-tooth tiger or something.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think axis deer are native to Africa.
Well, I was thinking of the wolf.
Oh, the wolf, the dire wolf? Yeah, probably a saber-toothed tiger and the short-faced bear.
Why don't we bring them back too?
Yeah, yeah. It's just I don't know. Again, like it is really cool. Um, but like maybe just fucking pump the brakes a little bit.
It's so funny too because if this was like 1990, people are like, "Wow, that's like an amazing scientific discovery." But like because Steven Spielberg exists, all of us who grew up in that time go, "Anyone maybe think we shouldn't be doing this?"
Yeah, yeah. Or the way to solve it is like, they'll bring back the dire wolf, then the woolly mammoth, and then they will bring back the saber-toothed tiger, and they're gonna come up with this great idea. We'll just take all of them and we'll put them on an island in the middle of the Pacific so that they
Where no one
can't
can
they
reach them.
yeah, where no one can reach them, so they won't bother anybody.
And
And
then we could make it into an attraction
yeah,
people could come
yeah.
to.
Then we can
Only
turn it into a
problem
theme
is
park.
Jeff Goldblum isn't going to live forever.
That's true. That's true. Um, so yeah, I don't know how old Jeff Goldblum is, but they better hurry up and get that done.
Well, they should probably have him start, I don't know, jacking off into like a cup or something, like whatever it takes so that we can make more Jeff Goldblums.
Yeah, they'll just clone Jeff Goldblum. But yes, yeah. So like the podcast with Rogan, again, it was super interesting to listen to the guy talk about how they use the different technologies, and just like Jurassic Park, right? He said they have to borrow genetics from nearby relatives to fill in the gaps, right, for the genome that they can't fill, right? So they take some, I think they took most of it from the gray wolf, maybe a little bit from the red wolf, but like, you know,
As long as there's no tree frog. Tree frog created a problem. I
yeah, the
remember
tree
that.
frog was the issue. Yeah. Yeah, that was the camouflage, right, for the Abdominus Rex.
Yeah, I forget. What
Yeah.
it was the Chris Pratt one.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, just stay away from the tree frog DNA. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Do that. It's just like sometimes just because we can do stuff doesn't necessarily always mean we should.
Well, so let's go back to the movies, right? So where did it all go wrong? In
When they tried to
the
monetize it and turn it into a theme park.
well, so that was the Chris Pratt one, right? Because wasn't the original, wasn't it just
No,
the
the original was a
scientists?
theme park.
Was it an active theme park? Okay,
Yeah, it
I
just
don't I
never
think
got opened. It never made it to the point of being able to open.
okay, all right. I was gonna say because I don't remember like people. Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
because I thought I remembered
No, the
the whole
Chris Pratt
premise
one was
was
they finally opened the
yes, they
theme
opened it as
park.
a yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
but no, the original Jurassic Park was supposed to be a theme park. They just never made it to that point.
Yeah, because I was saying because didn't they bring in the scientists because they were having issues with some of the species, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so it's like um yeah, so as long as you don't try to monetize it, and if you don't let some jackass try to move them to San Diego or whatever, I think
yeah,
that was the Lost World, wasn't it?
yeah, it was.
And the third one, I don't think anyone watched the third one. Oh, and no airborne. There definitely no airborne. No swimmers, no airborne. That should be a rule
Yeah, I agree with that.
because they can get away.
Yeah,
Uh, no traveling and no monetization for the public.
yeah. So, I mean, I guess technically it's just these two, right, for now. And because they're both male, Romulus and Remus, right, there's going to be no offspring. So theoretically, right, if they keep them in captivity, um, I don't know how long dire wolves can live in captivity, maybe 15 years. You know, call it 20 years from now, the dire wolves may be extinct again, right? Like, assuming they don't go and be like, let's make more, or let's make a female so they can produce offspring, right? And it's like, ugh, I don't know, guys. Like,
How do you think this ends?
oh, it ends in a fucking disaster. It ends,
I was gonna say maybe it stays in captivity. I don't really know, but they definitely introduce a female or they introduce more. One of the they're not
yeah,
gonna stop here
yeah.
because someone has to be funding this. Because there's no scientist doing this just for shits and giggles.
Yeah, I mean, my thing too is like these are fucking wolves, man. They're like 200-pound wolves. Like, again, it's you didn't recreate the woolly mammoth, right? Which I'm sure can be aggressive, but it's not considered a predator, right? It's not an aggressive predatory species. Like, wolves are literally fucking killing machines.
Maybe they're going to use the wolves to get rid of the deer.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Let them loose in Texas. Watch what happens. Although I don't know if dire wolves would be able to survive in that climate. I think it's a little too bit too hot for them.
You would
But
think no.
um, yeah, it's like just weird. It's just a weird choice to me. And everyone's like, "Oh, it's Game of Thrones and all this stuff." And it's like it wasn't because of Game of Thrones, right? If you listen to the podcast, like they had this. They're basically
Yeah, when did Game of Thrones? When was the first season of Game of Thrones?
2008, I think.
Okay, so that's
Um,
actually a little bit further than I thought. I was going to say I would thought maybe 2012, but
yeah,
so that's 17 years. Yeah, okay. But like no one was sitting at home watching HBO and going, "Huh, I'm a scientist. Let's bring that
yeah.
thing back."
It was a funny story because so this guy, I forget his name, but whoever the guy was that is the CEO or whatever, or one of the founders of Colossal, um, happened to purchase the actual Iron Throne from like a Sotheby's auction, like months, like 6 or 7 months before they pulled off like the direwolf stuff. So you're seeing like all the pictures on Instagram and everything of these baby dire wolves that are sitting on the Iron Throne from Game of Thrones. Like it's actually a real picture. It's not photoshopped because this guy bought the actual prop from the Game of Thrones set at a Sotheby's auction. So um, and it's also really funny because now they're becoming super popular, like these pictures, but the pictures were taken when they were like pups, like they were just born. And I think at this point, they're like 9 months old, right? So they're not small anymore. But everyone's posting the pictures like, oh, look how cute, whatever. And it's like, yeah, dude, that was 9 months ago. These things are fucking huge now. They're probably already 100 pounds. Like, Um, and then they did the whole like PR thing. Like they took George R. R. Martin, who wrote Game of Thrones, right? He wrote all the books. They've got pictures of him holding them, but again, holding them when they're little tiny pups, right? So this was all done months ago. It's just now becoming public because the guy happened to go on Joe Rogan's podcast and talk about it. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Like I said, like to your point, right? No one this guy didn't watch Game of Thrones and be like, that's what I'm gonna bring back. Um, you're limited to what you can find, right? For fossils, right? So if you find a fossil and you pull the DNA and you have 96% of the DNA is still intact in what you have there, then you have a pretty good starting point, right, for that animal. And it just so happened that they were able to find fossils that had most of the DNA intact, and they were like, "Hey, I think we can pull it off." Right? Same thing with the woolly mammoth. They found enough DNA where they're like, "I think we can pull it off." Um, you can't just go around and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna recreate this," and it's like, well, what? How much of the DNA do you have? Like, roughly 27%. Like, well, that's not really enough to go off of. So, like I said, it's more of coincidence, but yeah, it feels like a slippery slope, right? So I don't know.
Humans will fuck it up in one way or the other. They will either recreate the movie or they won't be able to continue to do this.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, yeah, I don't even know. It's interesting, right? If you want to extrapolate, right, and say how this could potentially be a good thing, um, I think it could potentially be a way to help with the food supply, I guess, in a way, right? Like if you could. because they're already talking like Bill Gates is doing that weird fucking James Bond thing about lab grown meat. And he's like, oh, I'll just grow a steak in a lab and it will never have been a cow. Right. And it's like, yeah, that's weird to me. You can keep that. I'm good.
Yeah, no, no, thank you.
I'll buy the steak that was butchered from a real
Yeah, I was gonna say
cow.
I'll either have a steak or I won't.
Right.
Um,
Right.
your 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 choice, I guess.
But where my brain initially goes to this, if you're trying to find the good things, is like fish, right? So you see all the statistics, right, that humans are starting to defishify the oceans, right? Because we're just overfishing everything. And I know, you run into the farm raised versus the wild caught, but if there's a way to genetically clone a bunch of fish, right, and then put them into the ocean, you could theoretically like restock the ocean, right? Like I know that's it's kind of not really how it works, but how you would stock up a fishing pond, right, with fish, you could do potentially something similar with fish, so you could still have wild caught fish instead of farm raised. Um, but I don't know, right? Like I'm just a dum dum, but if I'm trying to like grasp at straws and find a way it's potentially good, I think that's kind of where I go towards. Um, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, just to like kind of put a bow, it's also hard to say because we aren't smart enough as humans and we haven't been here long enough to really understand if what we're doing is
Yeah,
causing these problems or if this is just how the earth goes kind of in cycles, right?
yeah, yeah. The weird
And if
thing too, when you start to like incorporate this into the food supply, right? Like, so again, I'm just kind of thinking on the fly here. If you could genetically modify chicken, right? So that you make chickens immune to the bird flu, right? So all of these chickens can no longer get the bird flu because you edit their genome for the gene that's affected by the bird flu and you alter it somehow so that the bird flu virus, right, that H1N5 or H1N1 virus, whichever one it is, has no effect on these chickens, right? It's like, okay, yeah, that seems really cool, right, on the surface. But like, what are the downstream effects of that, right? Like, because now if people are going to eat that chicken, it's basically a genetically modified chicken, right? And everyone claims that
if you want to see
gen
people's heads explode,
yeah, like genetically modified crops are not good, right? Although it's a little bit different of a thing, not to go down a rabbit hole off of a rabbit hole, but I think the reason why people typically say to stay away from GMO crops and vegetables and stuff is because the way they modify those is to be not affected by Roundup, right? And glyphosate. So that means that they can just dump a shit ton of glyphosate on it and it doesn't die. So the issue with the GMO stuff for crops isn't so much that it's GMO'd, it's the glyphosate that they made them immune to. So again, a little bit different there, but like I don't know if you have all these genetically modified chickens coming around now, like is that going to have any effect on people? Maybe. I don't know. Right. The answer is I don't know.
you want to see people's heads really explode. The same crowd that would probably be in favor of Bill Gates and his side, generally speaking, not
Right.
individuals, they would be more on the like antibiotic free and free range and no cruelty and whatever. And now you're gonna have fucking fake shit. Those people talk about being put in a fucking blender.
Yeah.
Watch those heads explode.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, certainly be interesting to watch. Right. So speaking of other things that would be interesting to watch, I got one more thing before we wrap this one up here. And I think this is hilarious, right? Not so much in the actual what happened, but over the last couple weeks, Tennessee and that region, I think Western Tennessee has been kind of getting pummeled with tornadoes. I don't know what else is over there. Missouri, and Iowa,
Kentucky,
Kentucky, yeah, everything in that like that part of the country has been getting pummeled with tornadoes, right? So obviously a lot of damage, a lot of, issues and stuff like that. Well, I saw this on Twitter and I like literally laughed out loud when I read it. So, um, there was an instance where there was a house that had their roof torn off from a tornado. And the person that lived there called the insurance company, right, for an appraisal. And the insurance company kind of gave them the runaround, which one, fuck the insurance companies because they suck. And we all know that by this point, right? But two, from if we're being realistic here, like they're going to be really fucking busy, right? Like there's a lot of roofs and houses that got torn off and destroyed, right? So, it basically kind of like a get in line sort of thing. You're not the only person calling them because your roof got torn off. So fair, right? On one hand, they suck, but on the other hand, it's kind of to be
Math is
expected,
like there aren't assholes, but like
right?
math is
Math
math.
is math is math, right?
Math is racist.
So yeah. So um there was this one person, they called the insurance company. The insurance company probably said like, "Oh yeah, it's going to be fucking 3 weeks before we can get there or whatever." So this person was like, "All right, well, fuck this." They called the Amish. They got a group of Amish people to come down and rebuild their house. They rebuilt the house before the insurance company could come do an appraisal for the damage. So when the insurance company showed up, they were like, "Yeah, there's nothing really we can do here. Like we don't know. We don't know. Like we don't know what to appraise, right? Because the house looks brand new. It doesn't look like it got hit by a tornado." So, and then there was another story where there was a house that got hit or just the roof. Maybe that was the whole house. So that was the story. Yeah, there were two different stories. I think I was conflating them. So one of them was a whole house got ripped apart, right? Insurance company said 3 weeks. They come back, the whole house is rebuilt, right? Someone else in the region calls the Amish people and their roof just got ripped off. Maybe for whatever reason, the insurance company came a little bit sooner or whatever. The roof got put back on in a day. So the Amish people completely rebuilt the roof of one house in a single day, right? And they rebuilt an entire house that got hit by a tornado in 3 weeks, basically, or prior to 3 weeks before the insurance companies should go out. So, I mean, leave it to the Amish to just completely fuck with everything that's going on, whether it's long lead times with insurance companies or, you know, because then that's the other thing too. The insurance company is going to come out, they're going to do the appraisal, and then if they're going to pay for it, it's going to be weeks to months before that work gets done, right? Because they just drag their feet because they don't give a shit. It's not their house, right? So there are just people that are starting to take it into their own hands and they're just hiring the Amish people to come down and rebuild houses.
What they do, as unfortunate as it is, there's still blue tarp on houses in Augusta, Georgia,
Yeah.
and that storm was in October.
Yeah. When we flew into Tampa, I noticed that as the plane was coming in, there was blue tarps all over the
Oh yeah, because
roofs.
they had the hurricane. I'm sorry,
They had
they had a.
Helene.
Was it the same storm that
Yeah.
hit Tampa?
Yeah. It was
Okay, it was
Helene.
the same
Helene
storm.
completely fucking destroyed the southeast of the country.
That's so interesting because Tampa's like not near Augusta. Yeah, that's like a weird path. Or it's
Yeah.
it's weird to think of like Tampa being a West Coast Florida and Georgia or Augusta, Georgia being an inland
Yeah.
in North. Yeah, okay.
Well, I think Helene was the one that fucked up North Carolina, like Western North Carolina, like the Appalachian area is still destroyed. Like they still haven't fixed that shit.
You know why? Not
Why?
enough Amish people.
That's true. There's not enough Amish people there.
Yeah, I mean, like, so 6 months, six months later, people still have tarps
Yeah.
for roofs. And I like don't do not get me wrong. I understand like supply, demand, whatever. And it's like there's only so many people who can do roofs, and if people need the insurance money to do it, it's a fucking shame. Like 6 months without a roof when it could theoretically be done in a day.
Right. Right. Yeah, Amish guys can get it done in a day.
Yeah, but you need to have the money to hire them to do it, and they will.
Right. Right. And you
But yeah,
get
I mean, if
Jebediah and Obadiah and
you,
Tedadiah.
I'll say even Mennonites, anything.
Yeah, yeah, seriously. So, yeah, like I said, shout out to the Amish for just really kind of having it together, right? It's one of these where as we and I know we've kind of mentioned similar things in the past where the deeper and deeper we get into technology, right? Like we just brought back the direwolf from extinction, right? Like science is great, everything is
Yeah, we
advanced.
can't get a roof on a
We have
house.
massive fucking computers in the palm of our hand on a phone, right? The Amish are still like, yeah, whatever, we'll just get it done like in a day. Like we'll do all this work that needs to actually get done. Yeah, we can do it. And we'll do it quicker than any of you with your fancy machines and all that shit. And it'll probably be done better too, honestly. Like the
Oh yeah, no, I would.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we'll do it by hand
yep,
or with very minimal, because some sects of the Amish do use some amount of technology,
right, right.
but like it's probably still a nail gun.
Yeah,
That's still in a technically manual. It's technology, but it's manual.
right. Yeah. So with uh with that, you want to wrap this one up?
We can wrap this up. Uh, Shout out to Wellesley College. So I beat the shit out of Duolingo Italian, and it was fun for a while, but effectively, like, I spent a lot of time like learning like vocab or whatever. So it's like, as they all say, it's not the best. They just fucking
Yeah.
hooked me. They hooked you so hard. But Wellesley College offers three four Italian courses. It's beginner, intermediate, advanced. It's online. It's free. If you need a certificate of completion or some shit, you can pay like $60 per course. It's pretty pretty easy. Again, it's all online. It's all right there. So I did started the beginner Italian one, and yeah, pretty good. I mean, as far as the beginner stuff goes, I don't know. We'll see what happens when I get through all four, but I did get Duolingo off my phone. I was like, one day I'm like, I gotta get rid of this thing. It's like I beat it again. Like, there's nothing left for me on this.
Yeah, yeah, there's nothing left to do here.
But there's like yeah, I was like, I had to fucking quit it cold turkey. It's fucked up.
No
But yeah,
shakes yet.
so Wellesley College through edX or something has the free course. So I'm going through beginner now.
Nice. All right. Well, shout out to Italiano. C. All right, so my final thought is we watched a movie the other night called Electric State. I think it was on Netflix with Chris Pratt and Millie Bobby Brown. And it's basically about like a well, it's actually not a future. It takes place in the present day, but like an alternate universe of the present day where in this universe, without spoiling it too much, robots the robots were invented, right, in like the early 1900s, like they actually were, right? And they just advanced quicker than they have in our reality here. So there's this whole thing where it sort of becomes like a dystopian world in a post like human robot war. And Chris Pratt and Millie Bobby Brown have to like navigate through everything that's kind of going on in this like dystopian future. Stanley Tucci is in it. He's very good in it, as he is in most things. Um, but it's yeah, it's kind of like, you know, we have it figured out. This is how we're going to do things now. And then obviously you leave it to Millie and Chris Pratt. Then they kind of like uncover some stuff, and then it's like the whole movie and all that, right? Again, I'm trying not to spoil too much here, but um, overall, it was a pretty good movie. I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. It's an interesting angle that they took with it. The acting I thought was great, right? Again, Millie Bobby Brown and Chris Pratt and Stanley Tucci. Jason Alexander is actually in it too. George Costanza, for anyone that doesn't know his real name. Um, he's in it for a little bit. So yeah, it's a good movie, right? Like if I think it's probably right around 2 hours, right? So it's like a classic, whatever you want to call it, action drama, 2 hour long movie. It's good. I would recommend it, right? Like if someone was like, "Oh, have you seen it?" or "What do you think?" I'd be like, "Yeah, you should watch it." So, again, I don't think it's going to be like an Oscar winner or anything, but it was a good movie. So, again, if you're just looking to be entertained, which is most of the time what I'm looking for, it checks that box. So, Electric State, again, I think it's on Netflix. Um, so, yeah, that's going to do it for us. So, thanks for watching. If you're on YouTube, hit the thumbs up below. Yeah, subscribe up above. I've seemingly forgotten where these buttons are located on the screen, but they're there. Just hit them. Subscribe if you're an audio only guy as well. Rate and review if you're on Spotify and iTunes. The Masters has gotten me all distracted right now. Ludwig just teed off. And you can get us on Instagram at Sarcasm Speaks Pod. Twitter is Sarcasm_speaks. Facebook is Sarcasm Speaks. Check out the show notes, support the sponsors, support us. And until next time, good night, everybody.